5 weeks, the anticipation has been building. It is playoff time.
Dallas Fuel punching their ticket to the playoffs.
The Shanghai Dragons have actually done it!
Spitfire, red hot, heading into our stage playoffs.
Welcome to the Overwatch League! Say goodnight!
Titans continue to dominate the Overwatch League.
Shock absolutely living up to the hype.
And the Gladiators just keep on rolling.
The Spartans secure the final spot in the playoffs.
NYXL, they don't play by the rules!
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise! I hope you guys are ready. It's playoff time, Overwatch fans. We are live in Los Angeles for the Stage 2 playoffs in the 2019 Overwatch League season. Today, 2 of our 4 quarterfinalists will advance to our semifinals. The #1 overall seed for these playoffs is the San Francisco Shock. Shock went 7-0 in Stage 2, including an astonishing 28-0 map record. San Francisco today will face off against the #8 seed, the Shanghai Dragons. The Dragons are making their first stage playoff appearance in franchise history, which is a far cry from the 0-40 season they had last year. This match is just 30 minutes away. What's up, everybody? Welcome. This is the Watchpoint Preshow presented by State Farm. I'm your host, Chris Puckett, and I've got my whole crew. You know them, you love them. We got the Brits at the end, Sideshow and Brent, and of course, everyone's favorite Swiss. We got Zoe back in the building with fantastic hair today.
Oh, thank you. Yours looks pretty great too.
We have the same style.
Not that
She's
either
really
of us
good.
has done any of this, but yeah, shout out to her and makeup.
It's playoff time. You guys ready?
So ready. I love the playoffs. Our format this year has just made the stage playoffs phenomenal because you never know how the top teams are going to match up until they actually do in the bracket at the end.
Yeah, I
gonna
couldn't
be good.
agree more. These games are just going to be shaping up to be fantastic from top to bottom. I'm dumb hype, as Matt Mr. X would say.
Dumb
I'm
hype. We're all getting fired up. We're in playoff form on a Thursday. Today, we'll sit down with Gesture of the London Spitfire to find out how the 2018 Grand Finals champions were able to claw their way back to the top of the Atlantic Division. Plus, Ding and DM of the Shanghai Dragons reveal how they helped turn around the franchise after the worst losing streak in sports history. And there are 2 sides to every story. We'll decide whether some of the teams should be looking at the bright side or not. Here's a look at our Stage 2 playoff bracket. Today, you'll see the 2 seed, the London Spitfire, battle the #7 seed, the Hangzhou Spark. And of course, we have the #1 seed, the San Francisco Shock, facing off with the Shanghai Dragons. Sinatra, Super, and the Shock Squad are in the midst of the longest map win streak in league history. But Shanghai played them pretty close last Sunday, and prior to that loss, the Dragons had won 4 straight matches. So Sideshow, let's talk about the previous meeting. How were the Shock able to keep their record perfect when they met up against Shanghai last weekend?
Well, they're very prepared against what Shanghai are going to do. And Shanghai build their entire style around Ding, this star DPS player that they have on their lineup who plays a range of different stuff. Shanghai don't really play by the rules. They like to have Ding on Pharah or they like to have Ding on Sombra. And then it really comes down to how Shock deal with that. And we saw we saw the San Francisco Shock, deal with him incredibly well. Choyobin just was a beast of being able to deal with Ding on the Pharah. Shut him down there, shut him down on Paris, absolutely dominated him. And the whole of San Francisco, we heard it from Super when he was on the Watchpoint post show as well. They know how to play against the Sombra. Doesn't mean they like playing against the Sombra, but they're very well practiced at being able to do it. And it fits their style fairly well because the best thing to do against the Sombra composition is go aggressive before they get the EMP and be able to force them out. And we saw them put a lot of pressure on Ding on Sombra throughout that match.
Yeah, Moth had a fantastic moment in that match against the Shanghai Dragons where he booped Ding with the EMP ready to go. And Moth generally, I think, is going a little bit overlooked, and that's not a big surprise considering that he is on a star-studded lineup. However, league-wide, he's comparing really, really well, and he's starting to become a little bit more flashy on the back of the rest of his team. We've always known that he is a good shot caller and everything, but as of late, he's just like stepped it up another notch.
So fun to watch.
He is super fun to watch. He is going very aggressive with the rest of his team, and he's making very good, very decisive plays for the Shock.
After that Shanghai match, Super told us on the post show that the Shock feared they might lose a map to the Dragons in that meeting. So Brent, how can Shanghai actually pull this off today? How do they end this streak from the Shock.
Well, the one thing we need to consider with the playoffs and the beauty of it is that now the losing team, the losing side, has an opportunity to pick their own maps coming into this, which means that the Shanghai Dragons, they lose map 1, they can pick something that particularly favors them coming into the second match, which is going to be an assault map of their choice. But in particular, I'm looking at King's Row and the hybrid map right now, because that was the closest in the previous series between the San Francisco Shock and the Dragons. Ended up going to the distance, into the overtime. You can see them pushing all the way into the second section here. It was 4-4 at the end of it, and it was a very close series because this is a very good Sombra map in particular for them. But this is now going to give the opportunity for the Dragons to have their own little flavors, their own little map picks that it might be stronger on compared to the San Francisco Shock. Which is another thing to consider, is that both these teams, they were scrim partners. It means they practice against each other quite often. They're going to know their weaknesses pretty in and out. So this should be a very good opportunity for the Dragons to take a map, potentially even the series away from them.
I think we all want to see King's Row again. For more on how the Shock plan to continue this epic streak, let's set it down to the floor. We got our insider, Mika Burton, who spoke with the team earlier today. Mika, what you got for us?
Thanks, Puckett. We all know the Shock just completed a perfect stage, but don't think they have let that go to their heads. When I spoke with the team earlier today, they told me even though they have such a young roster, the entire team has kept a level head through the string of success. They attribute a lot of their success to one simple mantra: one game at a time, one map at a time. When I asked what the perfect stage meant to the team, I was told a perfect stage is good, but a championship is better. So I'm loving this team's mindset right now. Puckett, back to you at the desk.
All right, thank you so much, Mika. We've seen Super's great Reinhardt stats throughout the season, but the Dragons' main tank, Gamsu, is right there with them as one of the best tanks in the league as well. Several top 5 ranks, including first in final blows per 10. So, Sideshow, when we're looking at these main tanks today, Gamsu for the Dragons, Super for the Shock, what's the difference stylistically?
Well, I think the entirety of the San Francisco Shock is built around empowering Super and Sinatra at the front line, and Choyobin, who rotates in there and makes sure that they relieve a bit of pressure. And that's why he shares such incredible stats across the board, and the team works really well together. Gamsu, it's much more about enabling the rest of the team, right? He plays a lot of Wrecking Ball so that they can play a lot of DPS compositions. He's also, you see him at the top of the final blows list. Whenever that EMP comes off from Ding, he's the first one in, swinging the hammer, leading the charge, being able to mop the floor with everybody. So it is quite a different style, because Shanghai play a bit of an unorthodox style where they play so much Sombra and a lot of different pokey compositions where Ding flexes around.
We'll keep our eyes on those tanks. The Shock are the hottest team in Overwatch right now, but our 2018 Grand Finals champions are quite warm as well. When we come back, Gesture and Bedosian talk about their slow start to the season and how it's time to put the league on notice that the champs are back. This is the Watchpoint Pre-Show. The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, now connecting 99% of Overwatch League fans. Catch your league on America's network, T-Mobile.
shit, Gesture, the heroes!
You know I love London. They have a flair for the dramatic.
K-스테이지 때는 어느 정도 예상을 하고 있었거든요, 팀 성적을. 작년 리그 시즌 1 때도 저희가 삐끗하는 경기력이 많았거든요. 이번 연도에도 똑같이 삐끗을 하지 않았나.
We had doubts about London, but they are putting all of those to rest right now.
확실히 저희 팀은 최상위 팀, 거의 1위 후보를 할 수 있는 팀에 비해 조금 모자란 부분들이 있고 해설자 분들, 캐스터 분들이 이제 뭐 저희 팀 얘기를 최상위 팀을 예로 들면서 하는 거는 뭐 저희가 하는 만큼 그냥 나올 거라 생각하고
굳이 잘한다고 평가 안 해주셔도 되고 그냥 결과로 봐주셨으면 좋겠어요.
Spitfire, red hot, heading into our stage playoffs.
스테이지 2 플레이오프 올라온 팀들에게 한마디 하자면 이제 스테이지 1보다 저희 팀은 그렇게 쉽지 않을 거고 다른 팀들도 더 세졌을 거라 생각하는데 모든 팀들끼리 재밌는 경기 했으면 좋겠습니다.
전 시즌에 걸맞는 팀이 되려면은 더 열심히 해야죠. 결국에는 우승을 제가 하겠죠? 런던 스파이어.
Gesture will be head-to-head with Gushway today in the quarterfinals. These guys are absolute Winston specialists, but they've played pretty well on Reinhardt this stage as well. Both main tanks have different offensive strengths that have them in the top 5 statistically, and they get the same value out of their Earthshatter ultimates. Gushway and Gesture will lead their teams against each other for the second time this season. Last time, it was London earning a 3-1 victory over the Spark, but that was back in week 2 of stage 1. Both teams have looked much improved since, and the Spitfire only dropped 1 match in Stage 2 and appeared to be thriving in the triple tank, triple support meta. At 5-2, the Sparks' only losses this stage have come to Vancouver and San Francisco, who are both undefeated. And of those teams, we have to look at the Spark. Do you see any glaring issues with this Spark squad? Because they seem to be going to a few game 5s there, Zoe.
Yeah, I think one thing which particularly stood out for me was their little awkward shuffle they have to do whenever they want to play Zombra, which has been working great for them. The win rate is increasing when they are adding the Zombra to the mix by a few percentage. However, it is a little bit awkward because Rhea can't play Zombra, and that forces Godspeed to actually switch off of that Zarya, go on to Zombra, and then Rhea is taking over the Zarya stat, and Rhea... You know, I mean, the stats speak for themselves, even though the time played is very, very different. It is Godspeed's main hero. He has a lot more success when he is playing that Zarya. It makes for awkward shuffles when they are on certain maps where they have to switch over to a Diva, because Rhea then has to go off of that Zarya, and you know, they have to play that whole little shuffle there, which makes them usually lose a lot of ult charge. So that's the only thing which kind of bothered me, and I'm not sure if that 2 or 3% win percentage they actually get out of playing Zombra is really making it worth their while.
Keep Godspeed on that Zarya. 600 hours, it's a pretty good time on that hero.
He seems to know what he does. Yeah.
Well, the Spark could have their hands full today because they're playing the reigning champs, who are starting to look like champions again, aren't they, Sideshow?
They are. They're starting to earn that title back, I think. And it's really the development that the front line of Prophet and Gesture and Fury have made. And we always knew that these guys were really good, but Gesture started out looking uncomfortable on the Reinhardt. As you said earlier, Puckett, he was a Winston specialist. Prophet, we haven't really seen him on Zarya, but he picked up that role. And only now in Stage 2 do they look like they're getting comfortable with the meta, with how GOATs, with how the triple tank, triple support actually works, how you rotate aggression through the front line, how you make sure that everybody stays alive and prioritizing your abilities. But now that they've figured that out, they look like a very, very dangerous front line. You've got Fury, who's the best diva in the league at the moment, and Prophet, who's an incredibly dangerous Zarya.
Well, if you're an armchair analyst like me, you may be looking at the recent results of both of these teams and expecting it to be quite an even one, actually, because you look at the recent games they played. Chengdu Hunters is the one commonality they've got between them recently, where the London Spitfire ended up losing to them and the Spark ended up winning. So by that logic, you think Spark would have an advantage coming into this match, right? Wrong. I think stylistically, Hangzhou are probably going to be matching up much better against the Hunters. They like to play them and match them in a lot of their compositions, whereas London are uncomfortable playing against this high tempo stuff. I think this one is going to be an absolute roll. Sideshow, debate me.
No.
Go.
Well, I don't think it will be a roll at all. I think people are expecting the Spark to not be that great a team. Okay, they took charge and they also took Paris to map 5 and just beat them there. But they've just come out and beaten Seoul, and Seoul are a very good team. We were expecting them to be on the same same level as London.
Sure.
And both Seoul and London have propensity to choke in situations like
Would you say Seoul are on the same level as London right now?
I would say so, yeah. I think that they're roughly the same level. I think they may have underperformed against the Spark, but there's no reason to say that London couldn't do exactly the same right now.
Sure, that's a good point, but I will say in this, Hangzhou Spark, I have a tendency, they go over to the triple tank, triple support compositions, they like to match teams in it. Right now, I would consider London a better team in that regard when they run that composition.
I would agree, which is why I consider them the favorites, but I still think it's going to be a very close match. They were playing triple tank, triple support when they played against Seoul and beat them there.
I'm with Brent on this one. It's all London today, guys. While we're talking about Grand Finals champs, it was an epic event in Brooklyn last summer, and our 2019 Grand Finals is set to be even more epic in the city of brotherly love. The Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia will host our Grand Finals on September 29th as the culmination of our 2019 season. What are you guys looking forward to most about your first trip to Philly? The Brits, you've never been there.
Mate, I've heard a lot about Philly fans. Dangerous individuals. Dangerous people. I'm going to be, again...
It's brotherly love, Brent. It's brotherly love.
Everyone hates us. We don't care.
Exactly. The Philly fans, they seem absolutely nuts. I cannot wait for the finals.
But that's your people, isn't it?
Well, it's all right, though. Don't worry, because the Philly fans might not even be there. It'll be fans flying in from, like, New York and from Vancouver and stuff. Like, maybe some San Francisco fans will be there. No one from Philly.
I know Zoe and I are looking forward to cheesesteaks.
Yeah.
Good Overwatch would be a plus.
Food's going to be great.
It's going to be fantastic. All right, guys, the first steps towards winning a Grand Finals is winning playoff matches. The Shanghai Dragons are getting set to play their first one ever. When we come back, the Dragons tell us about their difficult journey to get here and how they don't plan on turning back. This is the Watchpoint Pre-Show presented by State Farm. The Overwatch League is powered by Intel. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
Beloved Dragons, today is not your day.
And that just could not have gone worse for Shanghai.
It seems like the story of the Shanghai season. Close but no cigar.
The Shanghai Dragons are 0-40 in the season, but I'm sure that they're going to be looking at the drawing board moving forward into the next season.
They picked up many very good players.
It's essentially Shanghai 2.0.
Ladies and gentlemen, history has been made. The Shanghai Dragons, on the 43rd attempt out, managed to pick up their first match victory.
연패에 부담이 많았는데 좀 뭔가 벅차오르고 팬들이 한호질 때 진짜 너무 감동이었어요.
Shanghai has started to turn around their fortunes from last season.
다들 분위기가 이제
Shanghai Dragons trying to make their way into their first ever stage playoffs. This is what it takes.
They went winless in the entirety of season 1. Now they're coming here, stage 2, and they're actually making it to the playoffs. This is obviously huge.
사람들이 막 무시하고 그랬었는데 이번 메타에 적응을 하고
We did see a lot of variety coming out of them, not just a strong DPS play. We also saw that they are looking very solid on 3-3.
다른 팀과 다르게 딜러를 섞어서 하는 전략을 이용해서 좀 더 잘해진 것 같습니다.
DM and Ding are just such a fun DPS duo to watch. This is a nasty DPS duo.
저희 팀 선수 특성에 맞게끔 상대방이 쇼크랑 붙게 됐을 때 저는 3대 0 예상합니다. 제가 예상하기엔 저희는 결승전까지 갈 수 있습니다.
DM is one half of what Sideshow calls the greatest DPS duo to ever grace a first-person shooter title.
Never said that.
Absolutely said it every day. And his Zarya stats in Stage 2 start to help the argument, Sideshow. Second in the league in eliminations per 10.
Pretty good.
Top 5 ranks in some other key categories. For more on how the Dragons are gearing up for their playoff debut, here's Emily Tang.
Thank you, Puckett. I spoke to the Shanghai Dragons earlier today who believe that playing the Shock last Sunday could actually be an advantage for them today. Fresh off a match against them, the Dragons feel that they can calm their nerves on stage, make fewer mistakes, and find the confidence to make it a much more even match this time around. Now, the Dragons want to show their supporters that this isn't the same 0-40 team from last year, and they're looking forward to proving their turnaround is real today. The Dragons realize that this is a big chance for the organization, and they seem ready to go this afternoon, telling me, quote, "We will not waste this opportunity. It's showtime." Puckett, back to you at the desk.
Showtime, baby. I'm ready. Thank you so much, Emily. It's time for the game where the analysts decide whether the glass is half full or half empty. It's bash or credit. Let's kick things off here with the San Francisco Shock, who won every single map they played this stage for a perfect 28-0 record. So, Bren, are you going to credit the San Francisco Shock for the achievement or bash the other 7 teams for not taking a single map?
I'm going to credit the San Francisco Shock for this one, because there's a reason this has never been done in the history of the Overwatch League, and that's because it's bloody hard to do. To not drop a single map against any team. A lot of teams, they end up taking their foot off the gas a little bit when they get to that map 4, start taking it a little bit less seriously because they've won the series out. Not the Shock. Complete domination from top to bottom, an unreal performance by them. And again, the teams they're going up against, you can't really scoff at them too much either. Philadelphia Fusion, Shanghai Dragons, there's always potential for them to lose a map against those teams there.
Shock stomping them out. Next up, the NYXL will play tomorrow as the 5th seed, in part because they lost back-to-back matches to the Atlanta Reign 2 weeks apart. The Reign only had one other win this stage, and that was against Washington. So, Zoe, are you bashing the NYXL for this downturn or crediting Atlanta for the come-up?
You know what? I kind of want to do both here, but I think it's too easy to bash the New York. So I will go ahead and actually big up my guys from the Atlanta Reign. I think that's a huge success story for them. They looked really shaky coming into stage 2, but they seem to have cleaned it up, winning back-to-back against what used to be a juggernaut with the NYXL. And honestly, there was a lot of great individual performance. Baby Bay definitely did pop off. We saw Darko back in the lineup, which kind of went missing, but now he's back and looks great as always. FRD pulled his own weight, and Dogman is starting to look like a above-average flex support player in this league. So well done, Atlanta Reign.
Well done, Atlanta. Let's keep this rolling. On Sunday, the Seoul Dynasty and Hangzhou Spark played a win-and-in match for the Stage 2 playoffs. Hangzhou took the match and will play London today, while Seoul misses out on their 5th out of 6 stage playoffs all time. Sideshow, do you bash the Dynasty's mediocrity or credit the Spark for shooting up the standings this late in the stage?
Well, I think my other 2 analysts on the desk are a bit too nice to these teams. I'm definitely bashing the Seoul Dynasty for that loss. I think Seoul have looked so good so far throughout this stage, and honestly, throughout 2019, they've started to get better, but they're just perennially disappointing. 5 out of 6 stage playoffs, they've whiffed. In the previous one, they beat the NYXL, and now they come in and they lose to the Spark. I think they've got to pick things up.
There we go, and finally, here's a look at our prediction standings following the Stage 2 matches. Remember that Sideshow missed all of Stage 1, but he's got the best percentage at this point. He's also only 17 correct picks behind our expert Brenji, despite having 56 less matches predicted. Zoe, are you bashing Bren or crediting Sideshow?
Can I do both? Well, first of all, I want to bash Sideshow for not showing up again.
Wasn't
that
an
one never
option,
gets
but I like
old.
that. Yep.
And Bren, you go for the underdogs. I mean,
I love it.
It's
I don't
dumb,
care.
but it works with the fans.
Every
so
time.
I'm
I love it. Because here's the thing about
with
predictions.
the fans, not in the numbers there, Bren. We still love you. We bashed Super once on this show, and he's played like an absolute beast ever since. We'll take credit for that one, but Super and Sinatra will be taking the stage shortly to try and continue their flawless map run. This is the Watchpoint pre-show, presented by State Farm. Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League. It's time for our stage playoff bracket, starting with Zoe's here. She has the top 3 seeds moving through the quarterfinals, and New York to beat the Gladiators in 5 maps. She also picks Shanghai to end the Shock's map win streak today, but San Francisco is still her eventual champion. Sideshow thinks the Shock will keep their map streak going until the finals. He's also got New York over the Gladiators, and like Zoe, his Stage 2 championship is the Shock versus Titans. But Sideshow is taking Vancouver to win that matchup like they did in Stage 1 and by the same score of 4-3. Our predictions expert, yes, the one and only Brenji, is going a different way here in the 4 versus 5 matchup. He's got the Gladiators moving on along with the top 3 seeds. No surprises from Brent in the semis, though, but Mr. Hook is with Zoe, picking the Shock to avenge their Stage 1 championship loss against Vancouver. And last but not least, it's the best bracket. It's my bracket, the one that was filled out before Sideshow made any of the same picks. But unlike Josh, I think they get it done in the finals with the final map count of 4-2 over the Shock. There we have it, guys. That is going to do it for our Watchpoint pre-show. We got a big one coming up. It's the first day of the playoffs, so let us know, who do you want to win in the chat? We'll be back with the games after this.